Amazing revealed. Pregnant wife's hidden crown transforms laughter into inspiring silence. Incredibly anxiety-inducing news follows. Sarah stood in the cramped kitchen of their small apartment, the crisp air laden with the scent of burnt toast and the unfamiliar heaviness of anticipation. Her heart raced painfully in her chest, thoughts swirling like chaotic confetti. A tiny life was growing inside her, a reality that both thrilled and terrified her. But alongside the joy flickered shadows of dread. How would they afford a child? Could she find a way to be the artist she dreamed of without losing herself in this new role? Her mind raced through a labyrinth of fears, financial strain, fading dreams, and the endlessly echoing comparison to her grandmother's success as a painter. The gnawing question gripped her. Would motherhood quench her artistic fire or douse it? Jake's voice suddenly pierced the silence, pulling her from her thoughts. "We've got another bill due this week." The weariness in his tone, once familiar and comforting, now felt suffocating. He loomed over the kitchen table like a storm cloud, his job at the factory hanging precariously by a thread after recent layoffs. The weight of this scene pressed down on Sarah's shoulders. Here they were, staring at the bills, while she carried news that could change everything. Her stomach twisted. She wanted to share her news, the hope she clung to. But right now, all she could see were the mounting pressures looming over Jake. The proud factory worker who had always been her rock was fading under the weight of his own perceived failures. They were tangled in a web of unspoken fears, his financial worth, her artistic aspirations, and their intertwined futures. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With shaky hands, Sarah moved to the corner of the room where her grandmother's old art supplies lay hidden in an unassuming box. As she sorted through them, a flood of bittersweet memories washed over her. The vibrant colors, the laughter of creating, the warm embraces of encouragement. Her chest tightened with a rush of determination and urgency to reclaim her dreams, even amidst the chaos. But with dreams came fear. What if she wasn't good enough? What if every brushstroke felt like a gamble against financial ruin? As she painted a mural at the community center in her mind's eye, it became a canvas illustrating their struggles and hopes, but doubt clawed at her resolve. Could she truly make a difference with her art when her marriage was cracking under pressure? With every passing day, Jake's stoic facade seemed to crumble. She noticed the way his brows knitted together, the way he clenched his fists when conversations turned to bills. And today, as if on cue, Jake grew silent, retreating into himself like the storm clouds that threatened rain. Sarah felt the heaviness fill the room until it suffocated. Would her art be the salvation they both needed, or just another reminder of how far they drifted apart? The colors on her palette began to blur, just like her hopes and dreams. Each stroke of the brush loomed larger, the stakes higher. Their love hung in an uncertain balance, teetering as they confronted the life they had built and the future they were fighting to hold on to. As she stared at the remnants of hope before her, she wondered, could her artistry heal the wound, or would it deepen the divide? As dawn broke over the horizon, light seeped through the cracked window, illuminating the clutter that had taken residence in their cozy apartment. Sarah's heart beat with an urgency that matched the sun's rise. Today, she resolved, would be different. She could no longer allow herself to be paralyzed by fear. It was time to reclaim her narrative, perhaps even to challenge Jake's silent struggle with weighty discussions around finances and their impending parenthood. With her grandmother's paints still fresh in her mind, Sarah spent the morning sketching on a new canvas tucked away in the far corner. Amid the chaos of her thoughts, doubts about her ability, worries about financial stability, and ideas sparkled in her subconscious. She envisioned a piece that captured motherhood's beauty amidst the tumult. It could weave together the aspects of joy and fear, hope and obligation. The first strokes of color blossomed onto her canvas, reminiscent of the vibrant florals her grandmother had once used to release her own anxieties. But as the colors coalesced, a nagging voice whispered within her,
The fears were never far behind, pushing her to ask, where would she show this work? How would it be received? It was easier to hide behind canvases rather than risk criticism. The idea of vulnerability sent chills racing down her spine, and yet she understood that confinement within her doubts would only deepen the cracks in their relationship. As if to distract herself, Sarah approached Jake, who sat at the kitchen table surrounded by bills that had become ghosts haunting their dreams. His tired eyes lit up when he noticed her, but the moment was short-lived, overshadowed by the rising tide of unspoken words between them. "Hey," she said softly, trying to bridge the growing chasm. "How would you feel about going out for breakfast? It's been a while since we had a moment just for ourselves." Jake hesitated, and then exhaled, betraying a deep-rooted tension. "We have a lot of bills, Sarah."
"I don't think we should. Just for one morning," she interrupted gently, hoping to catch him off guard. "Let's talk, please." The earnestness in her voice cut through the musty air of their kitchen, igniting a spark of curiosity. His eyes narrowed slightly, calculating the trade-off between fleeting pleasure and heavy responsibilities. She could tell he wanted to say no, but something shifted within him. He nodded, the tension easing just a fraction. As they sat across the table at their favorite diner, the clinking of plates and murmurs of patrons provided a comforting backdrop. Yet beneath the surface, her own anxiety intensified with the weight of her unshared news lingering like an unwelcome guest. She longed to introduce the delicate topic of her pregnancy, but what if it was received as yet another burden? "Sarah, talk to me," Jake urged, sensing her internal battle. "What's going on? You've been really quiet." Her mind raced. It was the moment, a decision point. Sarah straightened up in her seat, internally battling the thoughts spiraling within her. Shouldn't they address the elephant in the room? Her artistry was an open door, and with motherhood looming, art could perhaps become a lifeline for both of them. "Jake," she started, voice trembling, "I need to tell you something important." But before she could continue, the door swung open, and in walked a local art dealer, someone Sarah recognized but hadn't seen in years. This unexpected encounter buzzed with possibility. Would the presence of someone from her past offer an opportunity she didn't know she was ready for? Sarah's heart raced. The timing felt surreal. Could this person catalyze the change she craved, both personally and professionally? She steeled herself, knowing that in this moment of clarity, she had to choose. Should she pursue the serendipity of professional growth, or remain anchored to her fears and uncertainties? Would she finally face the excitement of motherhood, blended with her dream of being a successful artist? As she saw the dealer approach, the decision loomed large, and she felt the pull of her future fading in and out like distant thunder. The dealer walked closer, his presence electric as he approached their booth. Sarah's chest tightened, a mix of anticipation and anxiety surging within her. She could see Jake's expression shifting between curiosity and concern, the duality of excitement for her and fear for the impending responsibilities that could complicate anything she aspired to achieve. "Sarah, it's been ages." The dealer's voice was warm, tinged with nostalgia. "I hadn't realized you were back in town. I've seen your work floating around online. It's beautiful." Her heart swelled with an unexpected confidence. Perhaps this was the moment to pivot from her latent fears to tangible action. Yet as the dealer exchanged pleasantries with Jake, she felt the weight of her secret compound. Did she want to share this new chapter of her life before she had fully processed it? The dealer's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "I'm looking for fresh talent, artists with a voice. Your pieces have always had so much depth. Are you still painting?" Jake shifted in his seat, his eyes darting between her and the dealer, as if he could sense the high stakes unfolding around him. Could he see that this was not just a chance for Sarah, but a turning point for both of them? Taking a deep breath, Sarah felt a flicker of resolve building inside her. "Actually, I've just started a new project that explores motherhood and the beauty within chaos." The words fell from her lips with surprising strength. "It's something deeply personal, but I feel it's time to step out of the shadows." Both men paused, their expressions caught somewhere between intrigue and apprehension. Sarah dared to catch Jake's eye, searching for any sign of support. She was aware that proclaiming her ambitions could chisel another crack in their already fragile equilibrium, but she also knew that suppression would only knot her stomach with regret. "Wow, that sounds compelling," the dealer replied, a hint of encouragement in his tone. "I'd love to see it. When can we discuss this further?" The offer hung in the air, tantalizing, yet fraught with the implications that Sarah needed to confront. She could sense every detail, the humidity in the diner, the clatter of dishes,
and the undercurrent of unspoken feelings twisting inside her. This was it, an opportunity to align her personal ambitions with her professional artistry. As she weighed the dealer's invitation, the roar of doubt bubbled up once more, relentless and invasive. What if showcasing her work exposed entrenched fears about her abilities, particularly as she skimmed the waters of impending motherhood? Was it selfish to pursue her voice now, with upcoming changes potentially complicating everything? "Sarah," Jake said softly, breaking her trance, his brow furrowed, eyes searching hers for clarity. "What do you want?" His question rattled inside her like a melody that had long been silent. Did she want to be a mother, an artist, or was it possible to be both? As her mind raced, her gaze dropped to her hands, trembling unconsciously. The dealer waited patiently, sensing the gravity of her decision. What laid before her was not just an offer of opportunity, but rather the essence of her future. Building the momentum to respond, Sarah felt the weight of responsibility not simply as a burden, but as a potential catalyst for transformation. I could sense it now. The shift was not just personal. It beckoned to embrace an aspect of herself she had yet to fully explore. "I want to show the world what motherhood looks like through my eyes," she finally declared, the words reverberating within the booth, resonating not only with her desires but sparking a deeper conversation with Jake about their lives ahead.
As Jake's expression softened, she realized she had the power to define this moment, as scary and exhilarating as it was. She turned back to the dealer, ready to discuss how her art could bridge her two worlds. But even as the conversation sparked anew, deep inside, she felt the lingering uncertainty gnawing at her, a reminder that the road ahead would demand sacrifices. And just when her heart began to settle into its rhythm, Jake's phone vibrated on the table, drawing their attention. The unread notification was cryptic but ominous, a looming bill they couldn't overlook, one that could engulf both her dreams and their family's future. Suddenly, the weight of their reality pressed down on her again. The decision she just made began to spin heavier than the brush she wielded. Would she find the strength to navigate this juncture, or would she falter under the pressure of both her art and impending motherhood? The diner seemed to grow smaller as Sarah's heart raced. The dealer's words hung in the air, a tether to a future she yearned for but feared could slip away before she even touched it. She let her gaze stray for a moment. The clinking of silverware faded in the background, and her pulse grew louder, echoing the uneasiness that filled the booth. Jake, engrossed in his phone, wore an anxious look that mirrored her own internal struggle. It was as if the bill that had just come through had formed a barrier, an unspoken challenge to her newfound resolve. Suddenly, the promise of her artistic vision found itself overshadowed by the weight of their financial reality. "Sarah," Jake said slowly, the urgency in her voice pulling her back from the abyss of her thoughts. "I know this is important, but we still have bills to pay." His words hung heavily between them, the truth of them undeniable. "I get that," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But this is something I have to do." The certainty in her tone surprised even her. Was she really willing to plunge into this artistic venture despite the looming constraints that motherhood and debt threatened to impose? She watched as hope and worry danced in Jake's eyes. He wanted to support her, she realized, but every measure of enthusiasm was clipped by their reality. When had life become about surviving instead of thriving? This moment felt critical, a fork in the road leading to either a path of aspiration or one of unfulfilled potential. "Let's not dismiss this opportunity," she urged, leaning forward. "The dealer is interested. This could be my chance to do something I love, and to show our child that pursuing your passion is worthwhile." Jake took a deep breath, his shoulders relaxing just slightly. "Why don't you show him what you have so far? You've always said your work doesn't feel ready yet, but maybe that's the problem. I've been waiting for the right moment, the perfect project, and I'm always coming up with excuses."
Her words flowed, fueled by the complexities that motherhood stirred within. If I can't be open about my journey now, then when will I ever be? It's time I embrace this new chapter head on. Jake's eyes flickered, the mix of fear and support swirling within. "I just don't want you to get hurt if it doesn't go as planned. You've put so much into this." "Then why don't we make it work together?" A flicker of determination ignited in her chest. "This isn't just about my art. It's about us, our family. I want to show our child that it's possible to chase your dreams and still be there for them." The dealer, who had been watching their exchange with growing interest, finally interjected. Why not set a timeline? Show me what you have in a month. That gives you time to develop your project while giving you a target to work towards. No pressure, but enough to keep that creative fire burning. A month. Just like that, the challenge was laid out before her like an uncharted canvas. Could she balance the demands of art and the responsibilities of motherhood? Her heart fluttered nervously as she thought about what such a commitment would entail. I can do that, Sarah found herself saying. But even as the words left her mouth, the question loomed digitally, a constant reminder of their situation, a notification echoing in her mind, the bills, the impending responsibilities. She took a deep breath, the mingling of hope and uncertainty creating a dizzying sensation. As Jake reached out to touch her hand, he seemed to sense her turmoil. We'll figure it out, he said softly. We always do. He offered her a grounding presence, but part of her felt the urgency to break free, to discover her own potential. The fear lurked, but now it fueled her, not the other way around. With the dealer's proposal now solidified, a challenge lay before her, rich with both opportunity and uncertainty. Could she carve out a space for herself amidst the chaos of impending motherhood and financial obligations? Above the din of the diner, a new conundrum emerged, a decision to embrace everything that mattered to her. Determination and anxiety washed over her, binding her and pushing her forward into uncharted territory. But just as she began to feel a surge of newfound confidence, Jake's phone vibrated once again. This time, it was a message that made his face fall. The reassurance she just felt began to waver as a heavy silence blanketed the booth. What news had just arrived, and how would it affect their dreams? The weight of the unknown crept back in, threatening to pull them down into the depths of uncertainty once more. Sarah watched Jake's expression shift, a ripple of concern crossing his face that felt all too familiar. The moment shattered her fragile resolve, sending a shudder through her core. The dealer's tentative offer now hung suspended in the air, a fragile promise at risk of faltering under the weight of reality. Jake, what is it?
She asked, her voice cracking slightly, betraying the calm she had tried to portray. He lifted his phone slightly, the blue light illuminating his worried features. It's about my job. They're cutting back on hours again. There was a note of disbelief in his tone, as if he couldn't quite accept what he was saying. They've let go of a couple of people already. Her stomach turned. The abstract notion of financial struggle had just solidified into a harsh reality. She felt as though the ground beneath her was shifting. The sense of stability they'd just begun to reclaim, shattered once more. The sheer possibility of pursuing her art was eclipsed by fears of financial collapse. What does this mean for us? She fought against despair, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. It felt like the world was congealing, her dreams and responsibilities colliding in a chaotic swirl. Jake shrugged, defensively clenching his jaw. I don't know, and that's the worst part. We have bills, a baby on the way. I went back to work hoping things would settle down, but they just keep getting worse. The frustration in his words filled the space between them, festering like a wound. Then how do I fit into this? The urgency in her voice transformed into a pointed challenge. If you don't believe we can achieve both, your stability and my art, then we might as well throw this opportunity away right now. The tension in the booth thickened, a sense of weighty disappointment filling the air. She could feel the depth of uncertainty in Jake's silence. Would he concede to an endless cycle of resignation? Her heart raced at the thought, embers of determination flaring in her chest. Wait. The sudden spark of an idea struck her, shifting her focus from despair to strategy. What if I reached out to the dealer now? I could show him my work early. Maybe it could lead to something concrete, something that would offset what you're facing. Jake's brow furrowed in contemplation, a flicker of hope igniting for a moment. And how would that work? What if he loses interest? That thought nagged at her but didn't deter her. Then we'll never know unless I try. I can't keep hiding behind the thought of what if. Jake took a deep breath, running a hand through his hair. Are you prepared for that chance? If it doesn't pan out, it's another disappointment. It's not just about the outcome for me anymore. It's about showing up for myself and our family. If I stay paralyzed by fear, I'll resent missing out on the chance to express what I've got inside. Her mind buzzed with possibilities. She felt the weight of her earlier fears crystallizing into determination. Her own reaction surprised her. The more she thought of reaching out, the more clarity emerged amidst the chaos. It wasn't just an idea. It felt like a vow, a commitment to both herself and the life they were carving out together. Can we take that step? She asked, leaning into the gravity of the choice.
The urgency of the situation surged through her, igniting a fire she hadn't quite realized was there. As Jake gazed at her, weighed down but undeniably intrigued by her resolve, she felt a shift in their mutual narrative. She was not just trying to chase a dream. She was digging her heels into the fertile ground of her desires, even as uncertainty loomed overhead like menacing clouds. "Okay," he finally said, tilting his head slightly, a tentative agreement unfurling from his caution. "Let's take that step together. We can face whatever comes." With resolve strengthening her spirit, Sarah felt anew. This wasn't just about an artistic venture. This was about rewriting the story of their lives. Before long, she found herself drafting a message to the dealer, her fingers flying over the screen as opportunities blossomed in her mind. But as she hit send, the air shifted once more. Jake's phone buzzed yet again, a stark reminder of the storm swirling around them. The sight of it ignited her anxiety anew, a fresh wave of questions crashing against the shore of her determination. What news awaited them now? Would the precarious thread connecting her ambition to their financial reality fray further? Upon pressing send, Sarah felt a mix of dread and excitement. Her heart raced as the message whooshed into the digital ether. The sudden buzz from Jake's phone startled her. A wave of anxiety washed over her, pooling in her stomach, as if her carefully crafted resolve threatened to dissipate like smoke in the air. "What is it?" she asked, her voice cracking, her eyes darting to the phone in his hand. Jake looked down, his brow furrowing deeply. "It's from a coworker. They're doing a layoff meeting tomorrow," he mumbled, his voice low as if even saying the words made the reality more tangible. Her heart sank. The news felt like a lead weight in her chest. "So what does that mean for you?" "I don't know," he replied, frustration simmering under the surface. "Depending on how many they're cutting, I could be next. I might have to go into survival mode again." A jolt of defensiveness surged through Sarah. Survival mode had become Jake's long-term state. It had stolen their ability to dream, to breathe in possibility. "But we can't let it just happen to us." "Easy for you to say." He glanced away, trying to hide the storm raging in his eyes. "You're taking a risk with your art. I don't have that luxury right now." His words lit a fire inside her. A fierce determination came roaring back. This was not simply about art or a dealer. This was about fighting against the paralysis that fear threatened to grip them with. "Then we'll figure it out together. If I can show my work to someone who believes in me, maybe I can help lift some of that burden off you." Jake looked at Sarah, and in his childlike gaze, she noticed an internal struggle between love and logic, between fear and hope. "And how exactly do you plan on doing that?"
He asked, uncertainty lacing his tone. "I don't know yet, but I could start by asking for feedback from other artists, getting my work out there in smaller circles. Networking, building something that feels rewarding in the chaos. It's worth a shot." "Networking?" Jake's voice had the slightest edge of skepticism, but beneath it, a sliver of respect flickered. "You think that's going to solve our issues?" "Not solve them, but it could ease the tension. My contribution could lighten your load," she said, each word punctuated by her rising courage. A part of her wanted this to be a partnership, yet she needed him to show faith, both in her and in their shared journey. He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose as if staving off a headache. "I just need to know you can find something to fall back on if all of this falls apart. Can we afford a failure?" "I've been afraid of failure my whole life, Jake. Isn't it time that I stop letting that fear dictate my choices?" His gaze met hers, and she saw the walls come down just a fraction, the glimmer of understanding, a meeting point between their dreams amidst the chaos. "Okay, I'm willing to support your exploration, but we need to be smart about it. No more impulsive decisions." "Right." The connection between them brightened, a shared resolve ignited in the air. Taking small, manageable steps felt like the key. "How about you and I sit down tonight and lay out our priorities? We can both strategize. Let's turn this moment into action, not just talk." Jake nodded slowly, his expression softening as he processed her words. Their lives hadn't been a linear trajectory, yet here they stood on the cusp of something, an unknown adventure brimming with possibilities.
"Just promise me you won't go too far without considering the repercussions," he said softly, "but I'm willing to see where this takes you." With a determined smile, Sarah felt a blend of excitement and fear curl in her stomach, but knew that stepping forward into the unknown was the only path to growth. They were at a crossroads, a precarious intersection of hopes and reality, yet for the first time in ages, she felt an upward trajectory towards change. As night draped the world outside, Sarah locked eyes with Jake, her internal compass attuned to the potential lying ahead. What if, amidst the uncertainty, there was a space to finally carve out both of their dreams? But as they nestled into their late-night discussion, the persistent dizziness of what awaited them settled heavily in her mind. Could they truly harness their individual paths while navigating the fears that loomed like shadows? The question echoed, hanging in the air uncomfortably, just as the next buzz from Jake's phone crashed through the silence. An unknown source, and with it the dawning realization that their new venture could be on the brink of a revelation, or perhaps disaster. What lay behind that screen? Sarah hardly slept that night.
The intermittent buzzing from Jake's phone felt like distant echoes of their restless spirits navigating the uncertainty of the looming layoff. Each buzz pulled her into a spiral of self-reflection. What if she truly was the one capable of transforming their situation? The thought felt empowering yet intimidating. In the soft glow of early dawn, clarity emerged amidst her frenzy. She needed a strategic plan, tangible steps towards making genuine connections in the art community. She hopped out of bed and rummaged through her art supply drawer, pulling out her sketchbook. The pages felt like a blank canvas for a fresh start, not just in art but in their lives. She flipped through previous entries, noting the moments of doubt that had changed into bursts of inspiration. If she could use that energy, she could tap into a local network, engage with fellow artists, and step outside her comfort zone. With renewed fervor, Sarah began jotting down names of local galleries, art collectives, and community workshops. Each name was a potential lifeline, a thread that could weave her into a tapestry of shared experiences and creative power. This wasn't merely networking, it was an opportunity to unite her passion with the resilience required to confront their fears. Later that morning, as the sunlight spilled into their small apartment, she found Jake sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the screen of his phone. She knew the layoff meeting was looming over him like a storm cloud, but rather than retreating into despair, she decided to tackle this together. "Jake, I have a plan," she said, excitement spilling over. He looked up hesitantly. "What kind of plan?" "I'm going to start reaching out to local artists and galleries. I need to get my work seen, to gather feedback, and maybe even participate in workshops or exhibitions. If I can establish my presence while you're navigating this, it might create opportunities for both of us." He straightened, and ambivalence written on his face. "But it's a risk, Sarah. What if it doesn't work?" "Then we adapt," she replied, her determination hardening into something palpable. "We've survived before, and we can do it again. This time, we can face it with purpose." Jake paused, scrubbing a hand through his hair, the tension evident in his jaw. "And what if it all goes wrong when you're putting yourself out there? That's the point of taking this leap together. I can't let my fear of vulnerability hold me back any longer. We owe it to ourselves to strive for our dreams, to invest in our futures, regardless of the pain of falling flat." His furrowed brow gradually smoothed as she spoke, and she could see pulses of his internal struggle shifting. "All right, if you're willing to take that risk, I'll do what I can to help you with it. But I still need you to be sensible about this." She smiled, grabbing his hand and squeezing it for assurance. "Sensible is all I can promise, but the path won't always be linear."
"Can we agree to support each other no matter what?" As they both hesitated, a new message pinged on Jake's phone again. He picked it up and stared at it, visibly tensing. "It's from my boss," he said, and the moment's brightness dimmed with trepidation. "He wants to schedule a meeting." Foundation cracked beneath them. Reality stormed back in. Sarah felt her heart race. It was a test, a fork in the road where dreams and obligations collided. Determined not to let fear derail them, she took a deep breath. "Let's tackle today as it comes," she said softly, trying to ground them. "But remember what we discussed. Together we'll figure this out, no matter how bumpy the road may get." Jake nodded, though the uncertainty lingered. Something within Sarah stirred, a mixture of hope and apprehension resided, buoyed by a newfound empowerment. They were standing on the precipice of potential change. As they prepared for the day, she could almost feel the hands of fate moving them forward, pushing them into an uncharted territory filled with danger and possibility. What awaited them at that meeting? Would it illuminate a path toward freedom or darkness? A sense of urgency sparkled in the air, and she sensed that the revelations to come held the key to not just their futures, but the profound potential of their partnership. Would they emerge stronger on the other side, or would the heavy weight of doubt drag them down into despair?
The day unfolded like a tightly wound clock, each tick signifying the weight of expectation. Sarah felt the adrenaline coursing through her as she put her plan into action, but her mind remained tethered to the uncertainty surrounding Jake's impending meeting. Would news of his layoff shatter her resolve or galvanize it? She decided to take her first step that afternoon. Clutching her sketchbook, she ventured to a nearby coffee shop, an unassuming hub buzzing with creative energy. It was here she envisioned initiating her artistic journey, a casual environment where artists gathered to share dreams over cups of espresso. The familiar aroma of coffee and warm pastries enveloped her, but instead of comfort, it ignited her nervous anticipation. Setting her sketchbook on the table, Sarah began to draft a plan, a tentative outline of her goals twisted into shapes reminiscent of what she wished to achieve. She aimed to sketch out not just her creative vision, but the network of connections she hoped to foster. The outline transformed into sweeping lines as ideas flowed through her, exhibitions, collaborations, critiques. Suddenly, laughter erupted from a nearby table, pulling her focus. Two artists animatedly discussed their latest projects, their voices punctuated with excitement. The sound reverberated within her, prompting a deep reflection on her own ambitions. This wasn't just about her art, it was about belonging. In that moment, an internal struggle painted itself vividly across her thoughts.
Society conditioned her to seek validation from external sources. But what if she built self-worth from within? What if she actively sought out these conversations instead of merely occupying space? Swallowing her doubts, she stood and approached the vibrant pair. "Hi, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation about the abstract exhibit happening next month. I'm an artist myself, looking to engage more with the community. Mind if I join in?" Her voice wavered slightly, but there was a resoluteness behind her words. Recognizing her nervousness, yet sensing her eagerness, the pair exchanged glances before welcoming her. The infectious enthusiasm quickly pulled her in, and she shared a few of her own thoughts and aspirations. As they discussed their techniques and experiences, Sarah began to see fragments of herself in their journeys, creativity unfurling amidst challenges, exploration intertwined with vulnerability. Minutes turned into hours, and each story exchanged registered a transformative shift within her. She had crossed another threshold in her development, gathering courage with every sentence shared. She could feel her confidence blooming, gaining momentum as she encountered their understanding and feedback. But the gnawing weight of Jake's meeting still loomed. With each laugh, a tiny voice whispered that this new connection might not matter if their fates hinged on the outcome of his conversation. Was it selfish to focus on her own goals when uncertainty loomed over their life together? Upon her return home, Sarah found Jake already entrenched in a phone call, his tone steeped in tension. She could hear fragments of the conversation. Words like restructuring, performance, and future spiral through the air, making her breath hitch. Vulnerability and hope remained intertwined within her. Who would emerge victorious from the unyielding grip of fate? As she leaned against the wall, she considered her own choices. Would her artistic endeavor continue forward regardless of his outcome? If Jake were to face adversity, would she stand by him or crumble beneath the weight? The door clicked shut, and Jake hung up abruptly, his face a canvas painted with uncertainty and frustration. "They've asked me to consider another position, but I don't know if it's the right fit," he admitted. She opened her mouth to respond, but paused, looking into his strained eyes. This wasn't a moment for hastily formed reassurances. Instead, she knew what she had to do. She needed to confront her own fears and support his processing. "Whatever you decide, know that I'm here with you, every step of the way," she said softly. But inside, she sensed an urgent need to define her own artistic identity amidst the chaos. Could she truly balance their intertwined futures with her own aspirations? The tension in the air amplified as they stood on the brink of revelation, each breathing in the uncertainty of the next steps. With fate hanging in the balance, she felt a truth approaching, one that would either solidify their bond or test its limits profoundly. The next chapter was just around the corner, waiting to unravel its mysteries. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting a soft glow over the table. As Sarah prepared breakfast, the lingering tension from the previous evening curled around her like a thick fog. Each sizzle of the bacon in the pan felt like a cue for her mind to race. She was acutely aware of Jake's uncertainty, a quiet storm brewing just beneath the surface. "Do you want some coffee?" she called over her shoulder, not entirely sure what mood he would bring to the table today. "Sure, black," he replied, his voice flat. The lack of warmth in his response pierced through her. Sarah poured 2 steaming mugs and placed one in front of him. She studied Jake's face, the lines etched deeper, his brow furrowed as he stared into his cup. A part of her longed to bridge the gap between them, to weave her own uncertainties with his, but she hesitated, unsure if it was the right moment. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked gently, hoping to stir him from his thoughts. "A little," he muttered, his eyes still distant. "I just can't stop thinking about the meeting and what this new role even means. What if it's not what I want?" Her heart ached as she processed his turmoil. The weight of their intertwined lives felt heavier than before. If he was questioning his path, what was her place beside him? She took a deep breath, willing herself not to drown in his despair, but rather to swim alongside him. "Maybe it's an opportunity to explore something new," she suggested, searching for a thread of encouragement. "You might surprise yourself." He looked up, a flicker of gratitude mingling with skepticism coursing through his gaze. "Maybe you're right, but it's hard to think about new opportunities when I feel like everything's falling apart." His struggle echoed her own fears about pursuing her art. She had spent the last few weeks looking inward, assessing her ambitions, but the specter of Jake's worries cast her own aspirations in murky shadows. Would she be brave enough to venture into the world of artistry while supporting his uncertain path? "Can we make a deal?" Sarah asked, her voice steady. "Let's focus on our goals together. Maybe your new position could lead to something fantastic, and I can keep pushing my art forward." Jake regarded her with a mix of admiration and confusion. "You really want to do that, even now?" "Yes," she affirmed, "but only if you commit to your journey too. Let's not waste this chance to discover who we both can be." For a moment the air between them thickened with possibility, their fears giving way to optimism. Jake pushed back from the table, the echo of his chair scraping against the floor, shattering the fragile bond. "I don't know if I can do that yet. I feel stuck."
It was a definitive light bulb moment for Sarah. Perhaps being an artist meant more than having a gallery show. It was about embracing the messy authenticity of one's life and weaving that chaos into her creations. "What if we start by just taking small steps? I can sketch your thoughts, and we can visualize your ideas together." The suggestion brought a smile to his lips, if only fleeting. "You think my jumbled thoughts are worth sketching?" "Absolutely," she replied wholeheartedly. "Every thought is a flicker of creativity waiting to be shaped." He leaned back in his chair, his expression softening as he considered her proposition. "All right, let's see what we come up with." For the first time since the conversation began, Sarah felt a surge of motivation coursing through her veins. That shift in Jake's demeanor energized her, the potential for their personal growth aligning with the urgency of their situation. With each new idea sketched, perhaps they could refine not only their futures, but the state of their relationship. As they sat together, delving into their undiscovered aspirations, Sarah sensed a wave of clarity approaching, a profound realization stoking the fire within her soul. Could they be brave enough to face the unknown together, even as doubt loomed? In the spirit of new beginnings, she made a pledge to herself that she would no longer allow Jake's uncertainty to desaturate her passion. The journey ahead was fraught with challenges, but the promise of revelation loomed tantalizingly close. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, an unfamiliar number lighting up the screen. She hesitated, fingers hovering over the device, and a rush of apprehension washed over her. Could this message bring another turning point in her quest? That moment stretched thin, a silent heartbeat hanging in the air, thick with potential and profound uncertainty. What awaited her on the other side of that screen, and could it influence their path even further? As Sarah stared at the screen, her heart raced. Could this be the moment that would propel her dreams forward or shatter the fragile solace they had built? She took a breath, steeling herself against the unknown. It was a message from the art dealer, curious about the project she had mentioned during their last encounter. "Can you send me some samples of your work?" The message read. "I'm eager to see your new direction." Sarah's fingers trembled, and a surge of exhilaration coursed through her. This was it, the validation she had secretly hoped for, a tangible sign to trust in her artistic voice. Locking eyes with Jake, who sensed her urgency, she shared the news with him. His expression shifted from uncertainty to surprise, a flicker of encouragement igniting in his eyes. "See, you are ready for this," he said, his voice steadier now. "You've always put so much heart into your work." "Yes," she exclaimed, feeling an exhilarating rush of potential.
"But I need to finish the piece I've started. Something that encapsulates my journey into motherhood. It reflects everything I feel, all my fears and hopes. I want to help, Jake's voice contained newfound passion, a wave of energy surging between them as he leaned closer. "What do you need from me?" The offer made her heart warm. "We can brainstorm ideas for visual themes to get the emotions flowing. I can begin sketching tomorrow, but I'll need some inspiration, something representative of both our journeys." With that, they launched into a kaleidoscope of ideas, discussing colors, textures, and imagery that encapsulated vulnerability, strength, and love. The creative flow drew them closer together, erasing the lines of fear and uncertainty that had built a divide. As they mapped out their notions, Sarah's confidence solidified, transforming uncertainty into fruitful endeavor. They worked into the night, letting creativity navigate their conversations, while soft laughter broke the weight of tension. Bit by bit, they built a foundation of mutual dreams, igniting a spark of unity that had grown dim. Weeks passed, the days merging into glorious work-filled nights. The mural unfurled before her, capturing flecks of emotion, and she'd often find Jake stealing glances as he chipped away at his job search. Even with the shadows of responsibility casting lingering doubts, he joined her in seeking momentary escapism through creation, offering encouragement with each brushstroke. The day had finally arrived for her to present her completed piece to the dealer. Sarah stood in front of the canvas, heart thumping like a drum, adrenaline lighting her limbs. Everything felt vivid and electric, the culmination of sacrifices, fears, and hopes, reflected in bright hues across the canvas, portraying the journey of impending motherhood intertwined with her aspirations as an artist. As she made her way to the gallery, she glanced at Jake seated in the back, his eyes bright with pride. She felt a strong tether connecting them, an understanding that transcended words. The moment the dealer saw her work, his eyes sparkled with delight. "Sarah, this piece is breathtaking." Their ensuing conversation veered into depth, discussing representation, life, and the ways art interweaves with personal growth. Not only had Sarah conquered her fears of exposure, but the dealer offered her a chance to showcase her work in a local exhibition, an opportunity to share her story with the world. As she stepped out of the gallery, the wave of exhilaration washed over her. She was not just pursuing her dream, she had reclaimed her identity. Each moment spent embracing her artistry ignited a ripple effect in her life, the colors vibrant with newfound potential. Jake's arms enveloped her as they embraced, breathing in the moment, the worries of impending bills now a distant echo against the backdrop of triumph.
They had faced the tempest together, defying the tension that had threatened to sweep them into despair. "Remember back when we felt so distant?" she murmured. "Yeah," he said, a smile splaying across his face. "It feels like ages ago." "I think we conquering our fears defined what comes next," she replied. "We can do this, together." From that day on, Sarah and Jake became a proven team of resilience and ambition. They learned to pivot gracefully through uncertainty, turning challenges into stepping stones for growth. Sarah's art thrived, and as she stood in front of her growing body of work, she realized she had surged beyond the confines of doubt. In her journey towards fulfillment, she had achieved recognition, and the future now shimmered with possibility. This was only the beginning of their shared legacy, a narrative woven into the very fabric of their lives. The transformative power of pursuing dreams had knit them closer, grounding them in shared purpose. As they stepped forward, they faced the horizon not just as individuals, but as partners, boldly navigating their intertwined paths. And now, amidst the chaos of life, they had each other, both fierce advocates, neither retreating from their passions anymore. Stay inspired. Don't let fear stop you. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will touch your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these transformational stories alive. Comment your reactions and theories about the conclusion of Sarah's journey. What lessons resonated with you? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for stories that speak to the depths of personal overcoming.